ahead and mute everybody. Not you, Zoe. I'm not going to mute our speaker. So anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the fourth session of our 30-minute Recruiter Industry Chat series. I'm really glad you all are on the line with us. We need to go over a few housekeeping items before we start. We will try and make sure everyone's mic is muted, but if we happen to forget, please pay attention to that too. As we go through the discussion, please feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions, and we'll try and keep an eye on those to factor them into the conversation. And also, please know that I am recording the session so that you all will be able to review it at a later time if you'd like, or share it with somebody who might want to do that. So you will have that option. All right, I would like to read the land acknowledgement that the UC Santa Barbara wishes to share with our participants in our sessions. Before we commence, we wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this place and all land upon which the university and we as individuals are located. We pay our respects to the Native elders past, present, and future, for they hold the memories, the traditions, and the culture of these areas, which have become a place of learning for people from all over the world. If you know whose Native community or community's land you are on, reflect upon that and pay respect to them. If you don't, please take some time to research, pay your respect, and share with people around you. So with that, it looks like we are ready to go. My name is Diana Cedar. I'm the Employer Outreach Manager here at UCSB, and I work in the Employer Services team in Career Services. We're the externally focused arm of the office, and we work with employers to encourage them to recruit our wonderful students. Also with me on this call and helping on the technical side is Amanda Asquith, my colleague here in Career Services. This series is a result of the craziness that's going on with the coronavirus and the roles that we have in talking with students about how to shape their career search going forward. We really wanted to create an opportunity for a discussion with recruiters who know the landscape of what's going on right now, and so they can share some great feedback and information that we can share with students as they go ahead and pursue their career search. So our speaker today is Zoya Zegelbarger, Business Development Manager with Braze, a customer engagement platform located here in San Francisco. I got to know Zoya about a year and a half ago, and she's a very active recruiter and enjoys getting out on campus and talking to students. So she's been a wonderful partner. But Braze is a really interesting place to work, and she's going to share with us what's going on in their hiring world, what things have changed because of the COVID-19 problems, and maybe some great suggestions as to what we can share with our students as they are looking forward to starting their career and doing their career search in the next few months or semesters, quarters. So go ahead, Zoya, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and Braze and what things are looking like on the hiring front.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So as Diana mentioned, we are a customer engagement platform. A lot of people might not know what that means, or there are a lot of companies that say similar things. There's a lot going on in the space of marketing technology. Really simply, we're the company that sends out cross-channel messaging. So think push notifications, emails, text messages, things like that. When you get communications from brands like a Postmates or a Lyft, it's a company like Braze that's powering those communications and those engagements. So my team is the business development team, where I manage entry-level salespeople. They're responsible for generating what we call like pipeline or top of funnel business for the organization. So they're writing emails, doing research on accounts that we want to get in touch with, messaging people on LinkedIn, doing a lot of networking, and figuring out how to get our foot in the door as a business for these companies that we really want to work with. I myself was a BDR when I graduated from college. I went on to be an account executive, and this is actually my first role managing BDRs. So I started a year and a half ago, and I actually joined Braze to work with a manager who I'd worked with previously as a BDR. So a lot of the best practices that I learned, I implemented here, and I had a lot of support to implement that at Braze, since it was mostly how I was taught. And the team is growing really quickly. We've got an office in San Francisco. That's where I'm based. So I manage a team of 7 people right now. We are still growing. We also promote internally. So it's a lot of, we're usually like around 6 or 7 people, with the expectation that about every 6 months, someone's probably going to move on from my team into a different part of the organization. We work really hard to make the BDR team a feeder for the rest of the sales team, or Braze at large, but usually they move into like a pre-sales, sales, or post-sales role, client-facing. We've got an office in New York, and that's actually where our headquarters are. So that is the biggest office. We're around 500 people now. I want to say like at least 300 people are based out of the New York office. We're probably around 80 in the San Francisco office. We've hired a lot actually while everyone has been remote, so I'm not totally sure. We could have like 10 new people, or we could honestly have 30 new people in the San Francisco office who I just haven't had an opportunity to meet. But last time I was there, we were hovering around 70, and we still had a lot of open headcount in the different departments. We just opened an office in Chicago. And when I say just, I mean the quarter that like just passed. And we also did that really quickly. At the start of the quarter, we had 3 people. Now we've got leadership there. We've got a VP of the Americas based out of Chicago. So they oversee like all of the sales team in the US, but they're based in Chicago. We've got a director of development. So I actually roll up to that person now of the Americas. 3 BDRs. So that's like the organization that I know the most about, who are out there. And then we've got an office in EMEA, in London, and a small office in Singapore. So I think for me, it might be a slightly different conversation than the conversations you're having with other organizations, or maybe similar if you're talking to other tech teams. But I think I have a slightly different perspective because we have been fortunate enough that we haven't had to lay anyone off. Recruiting efforts are different. Things move slower, but we actually haven't had roles like taken away, at least from my organization. I know like engineering, if anything, has expanded the roles that they're hiring for. We just announced that we're putting a lot of effort into our R&D in the immediate future. And yeah, I think that's a good place to pause.
So you're in that wonderful sweet spot where you haven't had to lay people off, and it sounds like you're growing and hiring and that kind of thing. That's wonderful. We're excited that that's the situation. But it must be that you have had to change where you're working from,
Yeah.
how you're recruiting people. So can you speak a little bit about the changes that have been wrought because of the COVID-19 situation? How are things different?
Yeah, things are pretty different. So onboarding is totally different. So we've still got a 90-day plan. Somebody starts, we help them understand what their expectations are in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But all of that's done remotely now. So one thing that I think we're all learning to manage, we have a lot more meetings on the calendar now, because you can't just walk up to someone or have certain like learning happen through osmosis. You have to formally schedule 30 minutes, whether you need the full 30 minutes or not. So I think that's been a challenge for everyone at Braze. Just something we noticed after the first 2 weeks of working remotely. We were all like, whoa, there's a lot of meeting fatigue happening. But we worked around it. Like, I think in the beginning we were so concerned about like human contact that we put more meetings on the calendar that we didn't have to. We had like a midweek sync every Wednesday. We had happy hours every week, and that was from the people team, which was awesome. But then it was like, it just seemed like a lot. We had lunch scheduled, virtual lunches every other day. And then I think over time we realized that is just too much for people. People were finding that they had to work more time. That's, I think, another thing that my team is definitely working on, and I'm working on. I think I'm probably one of the worst ones at it, but that's fine because I don't work hourly. But it can be hard to disconnect because you're in the same environment all day. So I'm taking this call from my bedroom. So I went to sleep here. I woke up here. I'm taking a call here now. 5:30 could roll around and I could, oh, I'll just really quickly do this one other thing. And then before I know it, it's 7 and I'm like doing my evening routine. So we've gotten really good about managing our calendars. If something's important, it goes in the calendar. If it's something that is important but not urgent, it goes on a to-do list. And just being really strict about it, setting boundaries, which is always something healthy to do. But I've found the need to make sure the team feels empowered to do that, to say, no, like, this is my walk. Going on a walk. No, please, like, this is blocked off. Do not book. That's one change. Another one, I don't know if this is relevant to you all, but so we've stopped using external recruiters. So are we still hiring? Yes, but the ways that we're doing it are different than how we have in the past. And we've gone through like phases where I'm recruiting, like I'm managing this role, and for a long time I was recruiting independently without external recruiters. Then at one point I had support from external recruiters, and now we've deprioritized that for entry-level roles.
Okay, so then how is it you're not using external recruiters now? So how is it that you are finding your candidates?
Yeah, so people are coming inbound, which has always happened. And then things like what I've done with you, Diana. So like I've spoken to students have my contact information. Some of them connected with me on LinkedIn. Really just like all of the groundwork that I did last year is paying off, because especially as students are starting to graduate. I think that's maybe another thing. There's a lot. This is probably super important to your students. A lot of people are looking for new roles now because some people did end up losing the role that they had previously. Right. There is a really strong talent pool out there because there were people who maybe were BDRs already. And if that's something, that a company is looking for, if they're looking for experience, there are a lot of people who have experience who don't have jobs. That's different than the situation we were in last year.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of talent waiting on the sidelines now because of layoffs and so on and so forth. But since we've got our counselors and advisors here on this call, would you say a little bit about the kinds of activities and the way that you connect with students at UCSB? It wasn't all through career services, but you did a lot of, you worked hard and got out there and chatted with folks.
I did. So I think you helped me get connected with the AMA, American Marketing Association chapter. And they helped me get connected with Sales Club. Vendition, I found out, is the name of the Sales Club chapter at UCSB. So those two student groups were really receptive to just setting up time to get to learn more about Braze. And we did something with AMA, like just like a meet and greet kind of thing. And then we did an actual sales panel that I think AMA like co-hosted it, and the Vendition Sales Club actually put it on, where it was me, Adobe was there, someone from Hulu, and someone from Procore. So all like tech-oriented companies. We were all either in sales or some sort of client-facing or marketing. There's one person from marketing. But again, it worked out really well because Adobe has a marketing technology. We're a marketing technology. So it made sense for everyone in the audience, whether you were interested in marketing or sales or something in between. So that was a really effective event that we did.
Great. So one of the questions I have is revolves around, so what does recruiting look like in the future, given that, we don't really know when things are going to be opening up and that type of thing. It would be great to have you on campus. And of course, our doors are wide open. But if you can't be on campus, how should people be reaching out to you?
Yeah, so I actually just did a panel, a virtual panel with another school. So they had, I can't remember who all of the companies were, but it was a handful. There was Fortune 500 companies who I think some of them even had stopped recruiting or like actively hiring, but they wanted to like make sure that that relationship was still there with the school. So for them, it was a conversation of when we're ready to hire again, like we're here. We're still very interested in recruiting from your university. For me, it was like doors open. Feel free to get in touch. And I think that works really well. There were a lot of students on the call. There were like 80 students who dialed in. There were 4 of us on the panel, and I got some thank you notes afterward. They like at the end, the moderator had a Google Doc up with everybody's email and name and company, and then I'm sure he sent it out to them after. I think that's probably the next best thing to coming on campus, and I think in some ways it could even be better. Like I've actually had some experience with remote, either being managed or managing. So my boss is actually full-time remote. She's based out of Los Angeles, even though I'm based in San Francisco. So I've seen her do it. And I've managed up to that. And then I actually have had 3 interns so far. 2 of them were remote. And that was way before COVID. So I have like so much more insight on how I would manage interns even more effectively now.
So has your recruiting changed in the use of technology? Are you using an interview platform? Are you talking to people over the phone? How are you're doing your whole interview hiring process now?
Yeah, it's actually pretty similar, but it's still, I think this is like what a lot of companies are doing that they weren't previously doing. So the first one is usually a phone screen. The second one is always a video conversation, video chat. And so because I recruit from so many schools that aren't necessarily in San Francisco, but I know that students are open to coming to San Francisco. Like, for example, I've been talking to 2 students from UCSB. One is actually going to be an intern this summer. Yeah. So we need to work that out because originally he was going to come on campus, and it's looking like we're still going to be remote next month, or not come on campus, come on our campus. But that entire interview, until I was actually able to be on campus for that panel the second time, I met him in person at the first event that you and I programmed together. He followed up with me. We had a phone call, then we did a virtual interview on video, and then I knew that I wanted to offer him, like we were done with the interview cycle. I just wasn't able to give him an offer right at that time, but I knew we were done with the interview. I knew I wanted to make him an offer to be an intern by the time I actually met up with him on campus. So when I met with him on campus, it was just to have a coffee chat and nurture that relationship.
Great. Is Braze considering options like a virtual career fair? Have you participated in any of those that bring together many, many, many companies and many, many, many students?
We haven't done that yet. And we actually, prior to COVID-19, though, we didn't do too many career fairs, at least like with managers going. Recruiters would go. And then, like, as you mentioned, I'm just very active in recruiting. So like I met you at a career fair, but that was just because I saw that was happening and I wanted to go. So I like volunteered. I haven't yet. It's not something that the managers usually do, but I think recruiting definitely does it. It's hard for me to say because our recruiting team is based in New York. So I think they do a lot of things that I'm not aware of. And then they just send me talent through our system. I saw there's a question on the chat.
I can't see the chat right now the way I have my
I
screen set up.
can read it. It's from Maddie. It says, with the talent pool now consisting of a lot of individuals that have experienced and lost positions recently, how can a recent graduate with limited experience stand out in their application to Braze? So I actually really love recruiting from universities. I think there's a lot of high potential in recent grads. So I think coachability is a really big thing for them to lean into. And a lot of them have had internship experience as well. Both people that I feel really strongly about that I've been talking to, the one who's an intern and the other one who's still in pipeline, and we're actively interviewing with her. They had really strong internship experience. So that can be like very compelling still, despite not having full-time roles. I think like part of the reason that I really was so excited to connect with AMA and the sales team, at least for Braze. I'm really looking to see that it's fine if you don't have experience, but I really want to see that you've thought about this, that like you want to go into sales, you want to work at a tech company. There's something about like customer service or customer engagement that's exciting to you. So really highlighting that in interviews and in resumes and in cover letters, really like explaining the why and the passion. I think like somebody who's a recent grad who you can just tell is passionate about working at the company or about starting their career in a specific field, that is really valuable to me. And also I think like a lot of, especially if I'm talking about sales roles, like I hear a lot of managers speak about that. Also like imagining what they would do. Like sales is such like a self-starter kind of field. That again, like that's like really admirable. Somebody who doesn't have the experience, but really knocked down my door. They sent me LinkedIn messages. I saw that they were checking me out on LinkedIn like every couple of weeks. That's something that recruiters look at. It's always, some students are like shy about that. They're like, oh, what if somebody knows that I'm looking at them on LinkedIn? Like, good. I hope you're looking at me. I hope you're trying to find out about what I might be like as a manager, what Braze would be like as a company. Sending the follow-up emails, just like staying in touch, even just nurturing that relationship. Like I mentioned, both for these two people, I wasn't able to make them an offer right at the moment that I was excited about them. One person is still interviewing, but I'm excited about her. And both of them are just really persistent. They keep a pulse on what's going on. They check in. Those things all show maturity. They show drive, and I would rather somebody who does that be on my team than someone who might have had an experience in the past doing a similar job, but they're kind of like, more laxed or less ambitious. I think ambition is a really, really important skill that you can demonstrate even without a lot of experience.
So I like the way you are encouraging people to be really active in their job search and be reaching out to you and that kind of thing. So I wanted to ask the question, so is networking dead during COVID, or, it sounds like it's something that you would push students to do, and it shows a high level of commitment and drive for the job, right?
Definitely. I would definitely encourage that. Somebody actually invited me to a virtual coffee recently. And I think that's a great idea. Worst thing that happens is the person doesn't have time, or like, I hope they would get back to you, but worst case, they don't get back to you. But I think that's a really strong move to do right now. Connecting on LinkedIn is always really good. I've gotten so many referrals from people because a student, or maybe it's not even a student, but someone who's interested in the role has reached out to schedule an informational interview. That's super helpful. So even if you're encouraging students, maybe they don't know who the hiring manager is, or you're not saying message the hiring manager directly, they certainly can. But if they don't get a response, or if they don't, like, message somebody who has that role already. If somebody were to message one of the BDRs on my team and say, hey, I saw this role, I was hoping I could just get any sort of time that you can commit to me. I would love to hear about your experience as a BDR in the San Francisco Braze office. I'm sure they would screenshot that and send that to me. And then I would go into Greenhouse and I would look up, I would see if they applied already. And if they did, that would be like bonus points to them. And then they also have somebody else in the organization who can share, like speak on their behalf if they are impressed in the conversation, and they can also refer them internally, which just also is really helpful. I think that's maybe that's an answer to the other question. Encourage students to see if they can get internal referrals to these companies that they want to work at, so that it can help them get closer to the top of the pile.
That's really good advice. I want to throw it out to my colleagues on the call. Be sure and either pipe up or write in a question if you've got. But I know we have a pretty tight deadline at 10:30 as Zoe has to take off. But any other best practices that you can share with us as we are, counsel and advise students in this job search right now in this very unusual time? What else can we do?
Like one thing that I always think students should do is research. Like always research the company that you want to work at. Always know like why that company over another company. A little bit about how, like I understand with Braze and some tech companies it can be a little bit challenging, like without working there you're like, I don't know how the tech side of things work, but as much as you can find out, just be able to speak to it. And then during the time of COVID, actually, I think students should try to stay up to date with just what's going on in the country / in the world, but definitely in the country and in the industry that they're interested in. So I had someone apply and I interviewed her, and I didn't think this person was the best fit. And one of those reasons was just her research. There's like an assessment that we do after we have the screening. Then like the students go, they do some research, they submit a writing sample, and she was telling me about the different companies that she's interested in, and they were all like not fantastic industries for this time right now. So like if she was super passionate about it, I would have been like, I get it. Like if that's the industry you want to go into, if you're really passionate about restaurants, like you're going to find a way to break into restaurants during this time. But she didn't sound super passionate, and she was just kind of like, yeah, I'm looking at this company and I'm looking at this industry and this and this. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that I don't know if that's like the best way to go about doing things, but like just being informed, because it just makes, I want someone on my team who's really like dialed in and going to be able to call these clients specifically for us. My team focuses on enterprise. There are different BDRs who focus on different things, but we're calling into like Fortune 1000 companies. And if you get a high level person on the phone, there's a chance they put you on the spot, and you just have to have some of that like sales smarts. There's like so many different types of intelligence, but at least for this role, like to be able to just be like, I know somebody's going to put me on the spot for this, and I'm going to make sure that my bases are covered here. I think it's important for all roles though, but it's especially important for people who are applying to industries that are very dynamic, tech industries, and then sales roles.
Okay. Well, Zoya, this has been delightful, as always, chatting with you. And we look forward to seeing Braze more involved at UCSB in the future. I know you do have to take off. It's 10:30, and I want to be very respectful of your time. But thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us. Don't miss next week's 30-minute recruiter industry chat with Insight Global, 10 o'clock next Thursday. And Zoya, again, what a delight. Thank you very much. We so enjoy working with you.
Me too. I will talk to you later, Diana. And thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.